November 2025 in Chicago has finally hit the breaking point. Ladies and gentlemen, what we're seeing right now is nothing short of a full-scale revolt inside of one of America's largest cities. And the spark that lit this wildfire, a $21 per employee head tax, a migrant budget that has ballooned out of control, and a leaked EY report proving Chicago could have saved millions without raising taxes. But Brandon Johnson ignored it anyway. And now the city is erupting. I mean, business owners are storming City Hall. Black residents are turning on the very mayor that they helped elect. Aldermen are openly rebelling, and the people, the ones paying the bills, are shouting the same message in unison. Enough. Now, this isn't a political debate anymore. This is a full-blown uprising against corruption, mismanagement, and a mayor who chooses migrants over taxpayers, ideology over common sense, and taxes over transparency, all while President Donald J. Trump is restoring law and order and accountability nationwide. Now, here's the part Brandon Johnson never saw coming. These people who once defended him are now the ones that are leading the charge to take him down. You're about to hear exactly what happened inside of this explosive City Hall meeting, the anger, the accusations, the betrayal, and the moment his entire $16.7 billion budget began to collapse in real time. No clips redacted today, just the raw truth straight from the testimony, the reports, the voices of Chicagoans who are done being ignored. Buckle up, guys, because what you're about to hear, this is the kind of political meltdown that ends careers. Hit the like button and subscribe. Okay, Chicago isn't just frustrated anymore. No, Chicago is furious. What we're seeing right now, this is a level of public anger that this city hasn't unleashed in years. Not under Lightfoot, not during the 2024 chaos, not during the migrant surge, not even during the crime spikes of the post-pandemic years. This time, it feels different. It feels final because Chicagoans have watched their neighborhoods decay, their taxes skyrocket, their businesses flee, and their voices ignored again and again and again. And now they're watching a mayor double down on policies that nobody even wants. Nobody asked for them, and nobody can afford them. People across every corner of the city, South Side, West Side, downtown, the wards, they're saying the same thing. We're done. And today, that anger finally boiled over. And nothing lit the match faster than this. A $21 per employee head tax. A tax literally designed to punish any business that dares to hire workers in Chicago. Drop an absurd in the comments if you think that this is completely ridiculous. Restaurants, warehouses, hotels, mom and pop shops, retailers, everyone gets hit. In a city already losing jobs and businesses, Johnson somehow came up with this brilliant solution to tax the people who are actually creating the jobs. I mean, the reaction was immediate and explosive. Business owners called it insane. Aldermen called it economic suicide. One speaker straight up called it goofy. And honestly, she wasn't wrong. Drop a goofy down below if you agree. Even with President Trump reopening federal investment to revitalize struggling cities, Chicago's doing the opposite, pushing out employers and raising the cost of survival. This wasn't just a tax proposal. This was a declaration of war on Chicago's workforce. And if you want to really understand just how destructive this head tax is, listen to the people who actually keep Chicago alive, the business owners. City Hall was overflowing with them, and not one came to praise Brandon Johnson. Not one of them. Think about that, okay? Zoe Lee from Chicago Flips Red took the mic and dropped a reality check the mayor didn't want to hear. She's bringing 50 to 200 people at a time to Trump Tower because the Magnificent Mile looks sad. Think about that. The Magnificent Mile looks sad. State Street looks embarrassing. And her businesses running tabs of $2,900 to $3,600 are terrified. They're terrified to hire under this new mayor. So when employers are scared to hire, the city's dying. I mean, they warn the head tax will destroy summer tourism and bury small businesses. And Johnson, he didn't even flinch. And real quick, before we move on, let me say something very important, because while Chicago's fighting for financial sanity, you shouldn't have to fight just to understand your Medicare plan. If you've ever left a phone call smiling, you know that feeling of genuine relief. That's what happens when people call Chapter. They make Medicare simple, clear, pleasant, not something that gives you stress or headaches or surprises you with hidden changes. This is why I partner with Chapter. Now, one of our viewers said, I couldn't believe it. I actually felt happy after a call about insurance. Now, think about that. Insurance that makes you smile. So let me ask, when's the last time insurance made you smile? Now, most people are smiling already after calling them at the phone number down below or visiting askchapter.org/Ron. And that phone number again is 909-563-8279. And don't just take my word for it. Like, check this out. Look, Eric Johnson, he said, I called Chapter, including Plan D, saving a little over $200 a month. Yes. All right, let's get back into it, guys. But this revolt isn't just about taxes, it's about betrayal. One resident after another walked up to that microphone and said the quiet part out loud. Brandon Johnson chose migrants over taxpayers. They say he's pouring millions into housing and feeding undocumented immigrants, while black seniors are losing homes, while families can't get police responses, and while neighborhoods crumble. Chicagoans are watching migrants get hotel rooms, hot meals, laundry service, private security, while taxpayers are getting higher bills and fewer services. And now, under President Trump's renewed federal enforcement, Chicago's sanctuary agenda looks even more extreme. The city is openly fighting federal law, and residents are paying the price. You could feel the tension in that room. Chicagoans weren't just speaking, they were erupting. And then came the moment that Brandon Johnson never thought that he would see. Black Chicagoans, the very base that carried him into office, turning on him in front of the entire city. I mean, one woman confronted him directly, calling out the corruption in the Daily Center and begging him to show up in court to defend black families whose properties are being taken by corrupt white judges and public administrators. She said black seniors are being displaced, black homeowners are being strangled by taxes, and black families are being torn apart while Johnson pretends to be a champion of equity. She demanded he prove his so-called black revolutionary talk by standing with them. The room grew tense, to say the least. And then she said it. Your blackness is questionable. Her words, not mine. The crowd didn't disagree. Now, it only escalated from there. Speaker after speaker accused Johnson of being compromised, corrupt, and completely disconnected from the people who are suffering under his leadership. Now, one veteran slammed him for protecting illegal immigrants like they're your children. Another accused him of being a part of a $3.2 million scandal, a number that silenced the entire room. Others called him a foreigner, a communist, someone who just doesn't understand Chicago, doesn't stand with black residents, and doesn't respect the Constitution. Then came the line that shook City Hall. President Trump's DOJ is coming for you. Now, this wasn't political theater. These weren't activists flown in by PACs. These were lifelong Chicagoans, mothers, veterans, business owners, saying the mayor abandoned them. And they weren't whispering, they were yelling at him. And then City Hall turned into a full-blown cultural battlefield. A veteran, clearly shaken, told the room he watched two Hispanic attendees refuse to stand for the American flag, but they stood proudly for the LGBTQ prayer moments later. Now, you could feel the temperature shift in the room. Then he reminded the council that a migrant arrested by ICE actually had an active warrant, and yet aldermen framed it as some kind of a civil rights violation. He looked straight at the mayor and said, "You know the Constitution, but you don't respect the Constitution." Under President Trump's 2025 crackdown on sanctuary city defiance, tensions like this hit even harder. Chicago's leadership is openly rejecting federal law, and the people in that room, especially the veterans, they felt betrayed. Absolutely explosive moment, guys. And so while all of this political theater plays out, Chicagoans say that their neighborhoods are literally falling apart. Like, one speaker described abandoned buildings up and down their block, empty shells that attract crime and danger. Others pointed to skyrocketing violence in black communities, saying money meant for revitalization mysteriously vanished before it ever reached the residents. And then came the insult that pushed many over the edge. While neighborhoods drown in crime and neglect, Brandon Johnson increased police protection for himself and for his own family. Now imagine that. The taxpayers, they can't get a squad car to show up when they dial 911, but the mayor gets armed security for Thanksgiving. This was the perfect symbol of a city where leadership protects itself first and abandons everyone else. That's why residents say that Chicago is dying. And so as the testimony continued, a new accusation hit the chamber like a brick. Residents say Brandon Johnson is rewarding his political friends with taxpayer dollars. They claim activist groups and ideological allies are getting contracts, funding pipelines, and influence over migrant programs, while black families are losing homes and seniors are being displaced. Multiple speakers asked why migrants are getting hotel rooms, catered meals, private security, and medical service, while lifelong Chicagoans are being ignored. One woman said it bluntly, "You're paying off the people who helped you get elected." And the room erupted, folks. Whether the allegations are proven or not, the perception is catastrophic. Chicagoans are watching resources flow everywhere except their own communities. Now, to them, this isn't mismanagement. This is betrayal wrapped in ideology. And just when you think that the mismanagement can't get any worse, here comes the EY bombshell. A 101-page report from Ernst & Young revealed millions of dollars in potential savings inside the city budget. Ernst & Young, guys, fairly reputable company. Real cuts, real inefficiencies, real ways to reduce waste without raising taxes. The Civil Federation called it a missed opportunity. Aldermen said that the recommendations were solid, they were practical, and urgently needed. But Brandon Johnson, he just brushed it off, ignored it, pretended it didn't exist instead of implementing even a fraction of the savings that he pushed through new taxes, the head tax, the cloud tax, the social media tax. Social media tax, guys, can you believe that? All while claiming that his budget was reasonable. Chicagoans felt vindicated. The city could save money, but the mayor chose taxation over reform. That was the final straw. And now here's where everything truly began to unravel for him. The revolt didn't just come from residents. City council itself turned on Brandon Johnson. Pat Dowell, his own handpicked finance chair, publicly told him to slow down, slow your roll. Aldermen from every corner of the city warned him that rushing this budget packed with new taxes, no cuts, and ignored savings was political suicide. They urged him to consider efficiencies, to adopt the EY, the Ernst Young recommendations, to stop taxing workers and businesses into oblivion. Johnson didn't listen. He doubled down, pushed even harder. Just like the Democrats, demanded a vote as early as Monday, even though the city legally has until the end of the year. He looked isolated, overwhelmed, and shockingly disconnected from the people elected to work with him. When your own team hits the brakes, that's not good leadership. That is panic. So by this point, the collapse was happening in real time. Businesses revolting, residents revolting, black leaders were revolting, even the council was revolting. Every group that Brandon Johnson needed to survive politically was turning against him. And the budget, it wasn't just unpopular. It had become radioactive. No one wanted to defend it. No one wanted to be associated with it. The head tax triggered outrage. The migrant spending ignited fury. The ignored EY report destroyed trust. And the room made it clear, this wasn't a disagreement. This was a loss of confidence. I mean, you could feel it in the silence between the speakers, in the tension on aldermen's faces. This was the moment that the entire narrative shattered. Chicago wasn't confused anymore. Chicago was done. And then came the moment that truly showed how far this revolt has spread. Chicagoans openly called for President Trump's Department of Justice to step in. Now, one speaker practically shouted into the microphone, when Trump gets rid of these illegals and when the DOJ comes after you, you're going to jail, my boy. Others yelled for federal investigators to audit the migrant spending, the missing community funds, and the alleged $3.2 million scandal that's circling City Hall. Chants of lock him up broke out inside of a Chicago council meeting. Guys, think about how extraordinary this is. This is a deep blue city, and the people are begging Trump's DOJ for help. They want oversight. They want accountability. They want a mayor who puts Americans, Chicagoans first. And right now, they don't believe Brandon Johnson is that man. And that brings us to the final unmistakable snap. This is the moment that Chicago collectively declared enough. Now, for the first time in years, you're seeing something this city rarely experiences. Unity. Conservatives, moderates, frustrated Democrats, black Chicagoans, Latino residents, business owners, seniors, veterans, they're all saying the same thing. They're tired of the taxes. They're tired of the corruption. They're tired of the migrant hotels and the disappearing funds. They're tired of ignored warnings and ideological governance. They're tired of leaders who protect themselves while communities crumble. This isn't symbolic anymore. This isn't online outrage. This is a real rebellion. And whether Brandon Johnson realizes it or not, the people of Chicago, they've already made up their minds. The revolt has begun and they're not backing down. Hit the like button and subscribe. We'll see you next time.